So you just took the Lsat. Congratulations. However, I have a funny feeling that you're not feeling exactly as great as you were hoping to. The thought that is probably taking up a good amount of your conscious thought is to cancel or not to cancel. And of course, that's something that we have to decide pretty quickly. If you're like 99.99% of all Lsat test takers, you're of course throwing around all the options in your mind right now. So we decided to make a little video to hopefully help you out with that decision. So here's what we know about canceling your Lsat score. From the time that you walk out of the testing center, you have 6 days to make that fateful decision. If you choose to cancel your Lsat score, you must either fax the cancellation form, or if you're really dying to rack up some postage charges, you can overnight mail it over to LSAC, but they need your signature. So 6 days and the clock is ticking. The other thing which is important to know is there's no takebacks here. You don't get to see your score and then cancel. Unfortunately, I wish you could too. But you have to cancel within 6 days, and then 3 weeks from now, when everyone gets their Lsat score, you get a nice little report that says canceled. The fact that law schools are actually going to see that you canceled your score can be a little bit frightening, a little uneasy for students, but pretty much without exception, all of the admissions people that we have talked to have told us that one cancellation on an Lsat report, no big deal, no sweat, we all have a bad day. However, if you're thinking about canceling for the 2nd, 3rd, or 12th time, that starts to look a little bit fishy. First, a bit of general advice, and please, please take this to heart, write it down, stare at it for the next couple hours, whatever it is, sleep on it. You will have the worst feeling in the world walking out of the testing center. Everyone does, it's normal. I have taught thousands of Lsat students, and I have not known a single person who has walked out with the feeling, psh, that was nothing, easy test. There's so much pressure riding on it. It's a very natural thing to think that you did poorly afterwards. I myself got a 179 the first time that I took the Lsat. What was the first thought that crossed my mind as I walked out? Boy, I blew that thing. Where's my damn cancellation form? And I came very close, shaking with that form the night of the Lsat to send it in, but of course you don't really want to do that. So give yourself a little bit of time. We always think right afterwards that we sucked. It's just how we work. In school, you have to write a paper, you work on it for 3 weeks. When you turn it in, you always think that you're getting an F, because you've been staring at it for 3 weeks and it's never going to live up to your expectations. Let's talk about how you can figure out whether you actually did poorly or you aced this thing. First thing that you need to do is knock out the experimental section. You got 4 sections left, and your job, along with our help, is to figure out, am I going to be happy with the Lsat score that comes in roughly 3 weeks? So over the years, we have developed a little exercise that you can go through, nothing too complicated, but it will at least help you force yourself into thinking about how you performed on the test, and then, of course, hopefully, figuring out whether you're going to be happy with the Lsat score that you just achieved. So, this isn't going to work. You know what? Let's go upstairs. I want you to follow me up to Studio C, and I'll take you through the process. Come on. Let's actually talk some numbers. Make a little table, much like the one that I have to my side right here, and you will see I have happy face. That is good day. And I got sad face, sad poo over here, bad day. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the 4 scored sections of the Lsat, 2 logical reasoning, a little RC, and some games, and we are now going to estimate how many questions I got wrong on the recent Lsat on a good day versus a bad day. Let's say on each logical reasoning section, I left 2 blank, but I felt pretty strong on the ones that I got to. So let's say for each of those, I think that on a good day, I got 5 wrong, and on a bad day, I got 8 wrong. Something like that. Working our way down, I can then do reading comp. Remember, reading comp always has more questions, but let's say reading comp I felt reasonably strong, but one passage was a little bit tricky, something like that. So I can narrow this down to somewhere between -4 on a good day and -7. And then of course games down here at the bottom. Say I ran out of time for my last 2 questions, but I think I got most of the deductions, things like that. So good day, I'm looking at -2. Bad day, couple weird, stupid mistakes. Let's give it a -5. And then you have some sort of idea of where we might be ending up. So now you just have to total these up and give yourself a raw score for the test. I'll do the math real quick here. 10, 14, 16. So this would be -16 on a good day. And over here I got 16, 23, and 5 would be -28 on a bad day. Here's what I want you to do next. Take these raw scores, find yourself a recent score conversion chart, and then we want to see what LSAT scores these would have converted into on a recent LSAT. I took the December 2008 LSAT just as one that should be applicable, and I found that -16 on that test got you a 166, -28 on that test got you a 158. So that means, according to your estimates, you're somewhere in a certain range. Here in this situation, we're talking 158 to 166. Now that might seem like a pretty wide range, which it is, but first we want to narrow it down a little bit. Chances are you didn't do as well as you think you might have on all 4 sections, or, to be fair, as poorly as you thought you might have on all 4 sections. It's probably some mix of the two. So normally, we say you want to take that and knock off 2 points on each side. So now we're talking more in the range of 160 to 164, and now we're getting a lot closer to where your actual LSAT score might have landed. So let's start with the highest possible score. Let's say a 164. Let's say you were taking practice tests and your goals, you've been scoring higher than a 164 on some practice tests. And even if you scored at the top of this range, you still wouldn't be happy. That's kind of when you want to cancel. On the flip side of the coin, if down here, the low end, the worst case scenario for you on the recent test, say a 160, sounds great to me, 160, that's a good LSAT score, and even if I would have placed down here at the bottom, I would still be happy, go into my applications and rocking my 160, well then you definitely don't want to cancel. Now, if you're somewhere in the middle and the high score you'd be happy with, but the low score you wouldn't, that's when it starts to get a little bit tricky and when you actually have to think a little bit deeper about would you be happy with a score in that range. Now, before I let you go, one more tidbit of information that I want to share. A few years ago, the ABA actually changed the reporting policies for law schools. It used to be the case that law schools always had to report the average incoming LSAT score for their first year class. Now what they actually have to report is the highest incoming LSAT score for all of the people matriculating to their wonderful law schools. Well, now put yourself in the shoes of the people on these admissions boards. Before, when you had to go with the average, if someone had a low LSAT score, well, that's pulling down the average and doesn't look great. But now, if we're just going with the highest, well, then that low LSAT score, having one bad score on your record, isn't as much of a detriment to the actual school. So law schools are still probably somewhere in between the two, but over the last couple of years, we have definitely seen them start leaning towards highest LSAT score over the average. Let's recap real quickly. Number 1, sleep on it. Please, please, please don't do anything drastic. You will, of course, always think that you did horribly the day or even sometimes 2 days after you took the test, and don't let that freak you out. Number 2, go through some process like I have behind me here so you can actually force yourself to realistically evaluate how you did on the test. And number 3, with the changes in the admissions policies over the last couple of years, there really is not as much reason to cancel your score unless you really are pretty sure that you did terribly. So with all that in mind, relax.